There was a big political conference in America over the weekend, and some English fellow managed to sneak past security.
Because be clear about one thing. To save Western civilization, this is the battleground. Because if America falls, we all fall.
If America falls, we all fall. That guy is not wrong about that. The post-war Anglo-American transfer of global dominance was the smoothest in history. Washington inherited London's imperial networks, and Britannia's lion cubs adjusted to the idea that it was now more important to get a good hearing in the White House rather than Downing Street. So Canada signed up to NORAD, and Australia and New Zealand joined ANZUS, and the Pentagon opened American bases on Diego Garcia, and for the most part, life went on. It's not going to go that smoothly next time, and next time is already underway. To the French, this has been one unbroken period of Anglo-Saxon dominance since Trafalgar. To the Chinese, who take the long view and play the long game, there is one unbroken period of European dominance, Portuguese, Spanish, Dutch, Anglo-American, that is a half-millennium historical aberration, after which they will resume their rightful place. But the point is, America is falling. The scale of its brokenness. The federal government has to pay back $30 trillion just to get back to having nothing at all in its pocket, which no one in human history has ever done before. The scale of its brokenness and the scale of its military fiascos. The Pentagon accounts for 40% of global military spending and managed to spend 20 years in Afghanistan to lose to goat herds with fertilizer. The scale of its brokenness and the scale of its military fiascos and the scale of its leadership's fecklessness. They've outsourced production of everything from aspirin to laptops to a hostile power that threatens to shoot their senior politicians out of the sky and has enabled Peking to come up with the first ever economically viable form of communism. The scale of its brokenness and the scale of its military fiascos and the scale of its fecklessness and the scale of its nuttiness. All the most destructive wokey woke ideas come from the American Academy. The sheer off-the-charts scale of its madness obscures the fact that in critical respects it's just a supersized version of any rinky-dink third-rate Latin American banana republic. So yesterday, the purported leader of the free world's laughably misnamed U.S. Department of Justice dispatched its FBI to raid the home of the previous president. The armed agents ransacked his office and bust into his safe. That has never happened before in the history of the Republic, but it does happen all the time in sleazy, no-account, one-party states, which America increasingly resembles, albeit with an unlimited budget. Now, you might be, like many Britons and Europeans, entirely antipathetic to Trump, but the criminalization of opposition is not something any society or its allies should accept lightly. We'll get into that a little later with Michelle Bachmann, former presidential candidate and former congresswoman, and she'll have some great insights for us. One thing we have in common with America is that it is now taken as read by those who rule us that advanced Western societies have no right to determine who crosses their borders. We'll look at the big picture on that in a moment with Patrick O'Flynn, but sometimes our abusive governing class gets a little too obvious and suffers a setback. For the last 3 months or so, GBNews has been reporting on a North Yorkshire village dating back to the Doomsday Book, which happened to find itself targeted by the Home Office. Some minion of Priti Patel's came up with a scheme to house over 1,500 so-called asylum seekers at the abandoned RAF base at Linton-on-Ouse and thereby swamp that ancient village and its small population 2-to-1 with young male refugees under 40 and give it a sex imbalance of about 80% male, 20% female. After the public disquiet voiced on this show and elsewhere, the Home Office's decision to open Club 1830, boys only, in Yorkshire has been abandoned The Home Office sent us a statement, and it says the government is steadfastly committed to tackling illegal migration and stopping dangerous small boat crossings. I'm surprised I was able to read that with a straight face. They then say the government will continue to identify appropriate sites for Greek-style asylum reception centres. I'm not sure what Greek-style means in that context. 2 weeks in Mykonos, but this time it's for half a decade.